Hello everyone, this is Hana Karamat and I'm from Pakistan. I am doing my doctoral research in Shakespeare. Today I'm at the Shakespeare Institute at Stratford-upon-Avon, and I have my wonderful friends who I would introduce one by one, and I would request them if they can introduce. First we have the director of the Shakespeare Institute, Michael Dobson. And then we have Shaman, who is from Bangladesh, and Shaman is doing his research, Shakespeare in Bangladesh. He will talk about it. And then we have another friend and colleague of mine, Rupak, and he is from Nepal, and he is actually working on the Nepalese adaptation of Shakespeare. So let's start with, I would start with the Michael Dobson. Michael, can you just enlighten us that what exactly Shakespeare Institute is doing?
The Institute was set up here in Stratford quite a while ago now, in 1951, in a building that had belonged to the British Council. So it's always been very engaged with the presence, the overlap between English-speaking culture and the rest of the world. It convenes an international conference every 2 years, which has always been designed to sort of share completely globally the latest research, the latest discoveries, the latest thinking about Shakespeare here in Stratford, where the delegates can go to the theatre and see what the Royal Shakespeare Company are doing. And that has always involved Indian scholars. There's a big interest in Shakespeare in India, both in English and in many, many other languages into which the works have been translated. So what we do here is we teach PhD students, like these two brilliant and exemplary international PhD students here in my office, master's students, and we serve as a venue for events, for rehearsals, for performances, we look at how people engage with Shakespeare all around the world. And so this rather untidy office of mine is cluttered with things from research collaborations of different kinds in many different places, including these slightly faded looking Indian shadow puppets, which came back from the Asian Shakespeare Association conference in Delhi in 2016, which was organized by a Shakespeare Institute alumna, Poonam Trivedi, who's one of the great scholars of Shakespeare in India and who did her doctorate here well, I won't specify the date, but we're very proud of her.
That's amazing. If you would please introduce yourself and your topic on which that you're working, and how you think that Shakespeare is relevant in Bangladesh.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I'm Shaman. I'm on leave. I teach theatre and performance back home at University of Dhaka, where I'm just at the position of assistant professor. So now I've got a scholarship to pursue PhD. Particularly my home university is very enthusiastic about exploring Shakespearean culture in Bangladesh. And then I just proposed the project, and they just happily agreed to that project, and that's how I am here. I'm very happy to work with my professor Michael Dobson, and I'm just looking for basically how Shakespeare has been received, appropriated, and performed in Bangladesh. But though just Bangladesh has a long colonial legacies, and it's same to Pakistan, India, Nepal. So my motto is exploring modern post-colonial performance culture in Bangladesh. Here, I have been using Shakespeare just as a strong, vital, cultural, aesthetic instrument to understand Shakespearean culture. For me, colonial culture almost in subcontinent, particularly in the region of Bengal, the West Bengal in India and the independent Bangladesh. Colonial cultural legacy almost it is based on Shakespearean legacies. So Shakespeare is very important to understand performance culture, living culture in Bangladesh. For me, Shakespeare is not a noun, but Shakespeare is a verb. In Bangladesh, particularly after the independence of Bangladesh, you know, in 1971, through the liberation war, Bangladesh got its independence, and then I found that in three ways Shakespeare has been heavily appropriated through education, criticism, and scholarship. Secondly, creative writings like translation. Sometimes translators relied on very authentic translation, line by line translation. Sometimes just you will find cultural translation and adaptation and reworkings. And then Shakespeare has been staged and received and naturalized or imitated through theatrical acts. So this is what Shakespeare is in Bangladesh.
That's amazing. Now I would request Rupak if you can introduce yourself and a little bit about the topic and how you think that Shakespeare is relevant in Nepal.
Thank you, Hannah. My name is Rupak, and I'm third year PhD student, and I'm doing my research under supervision of brilliant professor Michael Dobson. My research topic is Shakespeare adaptation in Nepal. So that means I'm researching Nepalese Shakespeare. And Shakespeare is relevant to not only to Nepal, he is relevant to the whole world actually. It's as everybody knows that we still get Shakespearean characters, Shakespearean culture everywhere in the world, even in contemporary societies. And Nepal is also very much involved with Shakespearean phenomena, and that's what I'm researching on. That's my area is. My friend, someone said that is India, Pakistan, Bangladesh were once colonized by Britain, but Nepal was not. But Nepal has got very good relationship with the UK, and to mark the 200th bilateral relationship, Globe to Globe Hamlet and also the British Council of Nepal projected a play to Nepalese people, and it was also time to mark the 450th birthday of Shakespeare himself, and the Globe to Globe Hamlet and British Council stays English Shakespeare in Kathmandu, but at the same time they also perform Nepalese Shakespeare with co-direction of two directors, one from the UK, English director, and another from Nepal. So Gregory Thompson from Globe to Globe Hamlet and Binod Subedi from Nepal. He was in another theatre in Nepal, and the two brilliant directors, within a very short time of 10 days, they staged Hamlet, Nepalese Hamlet. And the Hamlet, as I told you, he is very contemporary to Nepalese society as well. And the theme of the Hamlet, let's say intrigue, vengeance, and also the violence regime change, everything was there. The director saw that there. And they just picked up and adapted the Nepalese political history to the Hamilton culture. So it was present there. And similarly, in 2016, another theatre group called Gurukul presented Midsummer Night's Sapna, adapted version in Nepal. And it was another brilliant comedy that they presented recently. If you see the history of let's say Shakespearean drama presented in Nepal, it's been long that we can mark. The latest one is in 1906. That was the first adaptation presented in Nepal. And before that, the Shakespearean dramas were presented in the royal palaces for royal family members, and they were presented as by the some Indian theatre groups or British theatre groups, but it was locked within the royal family members. So for public, it started being staged from 1906, and it has come more than 100 years now. And the latest ones are the one comedy and the other one tragedy, Hamlet and Midsummer Night's Sapna. And in Midsummer Night's Sapna was present in such a way that taking the let's say Athenian culture, Athenian myths, Celtic myths, English myths, everything is mixed up there. But those mythical characters were replaced by the Nepalese mythical characters and Nepalese social characters. And it was produced as if Nepalese product for the initiates, but for the non-initiates who have already read or watched the plays, and it very nicely related to the Shakespearean drama. So there is very much Shakespeare everywhere in Nepal now in the contemporary time as well. So that's what I'm researching.
Exactly. As my research is also like in Shakespeare, and especially I'm very much interested in the female characters, and I'm working on misogyny and patriarchy, and I say that frailty, thy name is still woman, and in my part of the world, and there are so many taboos attached, and this is how that I have always find the gaps, and it has made me so much interested to work, and I see a lot of comparisons, the female characters in Shakespeare, that they still exist in my part of the world, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which is my province, and I'm from Peshawar. So, so Shakespeare's women, they were not common women. They were very powerful in terms of, or I feel that they were very progressive for their age. We still feel. Michael, I would like to ask you this: that when you see such diversity at the institute, is it challenging to supervise them because there are different cultures? And another thing is that how much Shakespeare's themes, they are so universal. I mean, like, this is amazing.
Yeah, they're local, but they're experience. I mean, they're universal, but they're experienced locally. We understand Shakespeare from our own positions and in our own contexts and in our own moments. I mean, one of the exciting things about learning so much from students who are working on Shakespeare in their own cultural places and their own settings is that one finds places like yours where some bits of the Shakespeare canon that have kind of faded a bit or become safe in the West are still really exciting. I mean, Much Ado About Nothing is regarded as kind of safe entertainment about other people's problems, really, when it's performed in a standard mainstream way in England. But where you are in Peshawar, this play about arranged marriage and women who are presented veiled and interchangeable in the last scene, all that extraordinary outburst of misogyny that Claudio comes out with in the wedding scene. That's a live topical play, and that's why your work is so exciting, because these are still edgy plays in some parts of the world. Just as Hamlet, for us, it's a play about political corruption and regime change and intergenerational struggle. That resonates differently in Nepal, with different local conditions, just as it resonates differently in Bangladesh. And for you, it's the awful things Hamlet says to Ophelia and Gertrude that are going to leap off the page. And so it's not so much a challenge as a privilege to have students doing research about what's happening with Shakespeare in different places and in different contexts and in being adapted and used as one part of the prism into entirely different worldviews, as where the whole religious background of a play or the mythological background of a play gets adjusted so that you get Buddhist characters in it instead of Greek and Roman deities. I mean, it's a great and very exciting field of study, and for me, I just soak it up. I mean, I just read the stuff these people produce and suggest a few technical things and learn, which is one of the things that's always so exciting when it's possible about seeing Shakespeare at international festivals where there are companies from different parts of the world using the resources of different theatre traditions and expressing quite different takes on what is alive and what is less alive in these scripts.
I would like to ask this question, and then I would ask my friends also to give their stance on that. Do you think that Shakespeare is almost it's very popular in Pakistan? Even people, those who haven't read Shakespeare, they know his name. They know that who was he. So do you think that Shakespeare should be the part of the curriculum in education? How important it is for the students, and specifically at this point of time in the 21st century, how it can, we can take benefit from teaching Shakespeare to our young generation?
I think it's got to be taught in the right way. That really helps in my experience. But I think it's a vital common language, common cultural resource, even though used in very, very different ways. Shakespeare's plays are exemplary of freedom of expression. They are debates, they are not sermons, they are not monuments. They give us a model of how people can interact, and they give us a model of how we have to exercise our own judgment in assessing what's going on as these rhetorical and physical confrontations take place. But teaching Shakespeare from where you are, and in terms of a drama in which there aren't easy resolutions, so that students learn to argue the case for a particular character, but not identify that as some kind of universal message. I think that's tremendously valuable.
How would you the Shakespeare in your curriculum in academia, how popular it is, and do you think that it is taught in Bangladesh in the right way as it should be?
Thank you. Shakespeare is also very popular in Bangladesh, particularly for the curriculum. Shakespeare has been a very important author from the colonial era. Just now, even in the secondary school, even in the primary school level, just students read Shakespeare stories in their own adapted, recreated version. Shakespeare is included in college and in university, and particularly English department and theatre and performance studies department, they are heavily engaged in studying Shakespeare in their own ways. I think what Michael just had said that Shakespeare, if what I have gained just from the Bangladeshi scene of Shakespearean praxis and culture, that Shakespeare is very interesting author who is very free to interpret. The Shakespearean canon is very open to interpret. Shakespeare, how and why Shakespeare is a living character in our culture, particularly in Bangladesh, because Shakespeare is at a crossover of shared creativities. So we can share with Shakespearean texts. We can reinvent our lives, our societies, our political histories, because through Shakespearean texts, if we just look at closely the Shakespearean culture in Bangladesh, particularly focusing on Shakespearean theatres, then we will find that Shakespeare has been appropriated or just responded to the theatrical companies of Bangladesh just as a political metaphor, sometimes a social mirror, sometimes a vehicle of cultural taste, and for the dilettante, the elite group. So even many parts of Bangladesh, you'll find that Shakespeare is heavily adored by elite, highly educated people. But I have found many theatrical productions in Bangladesh. Shakespeare has been just used just a very important political tool to transform the society. Just like Arunnak, a theater group in 1989, they produced Coriolanus. Arunnak is committed to raise the voice of subaltern peoples. They are very committed politically, and they believe in Marxist ideology, and they just brought Coriolanus just for the political reason to to raise the question of democracy against the autocratic regime of Bangladesh. So Shakespeare has been just used as a political metaphor. And there is an adaptation by Ali Zakir, is very renowned actor and director and writer and cultural personality. Just unfortunately, he had passed away just 1 year ago. Just he adapted Hamlet as a darpon or mirror. He just sets this text in the social context where misogyny, patriarchy strongly predominates the social values and systems. So Gertrude became the most powerful key women figure through the character. Bangladeshi audience understands their society, how it is, what it is. So there are many cases. So Shakespeare is very vital instrument, not for his universal, timeless genuinity, but for his archaeological, creative energy, which we can get to make sense our lives in this time. So Shakespeare has power, but also as a creative person, we have also the energy to make meaningful Shakespeare in our country. So it's a reciprocal relationship with Shakespeare and our time.
Well said. Do you agree with this in your context?
Yeah, of course. As Michael said, Shakespeare is universal subject, and he is global and local at the same time. So he is antique and contemporary as well. Perhaps he has been a history for the Western culture, and if we see now here and read Shakespeare, we feel something like we are reading the history, historical anecdote. But if we see the Asian society, or the, let's say, Oriental society, we feel that people are still living the Shakespearean society. So all the characters are there, as Shakespeare said, that the whole world is the stage and we are the characters, that we are playing the roles. So we still find that very Shakespearean society in the Eastern culture. Like Gregory Thompson said, he was in Pakistan. He just heard that a lady was stoned to death by his family members. And that what used to happen in Shakespeare's plays. And maybe it was for Shakespeare himself was also a kind of history for him. Like he wrote Hamlet after 800 years of the incident. Am I right, sir? Yeah, almost 800 years it was.
It's an ancient legend.
So it was a history for him, but it is present day phenomenon in some countries. So it is in Nepal as well. So we find so many things, so many incidents recurring every time, like politics, social and mythical, and way of thinking of people, way of believing.
Yeah.
So everything that comes within is a package. So everything, if we see it from a Shakespearean point of view, everyone is kind of Shakespearean characters. Every incident is Shakespearean incidents there. Maybe the let's say civilization is going west to east. So we used to find the Shakespearean or the history of Shakespeare or the Shakespearean society is just arrived to the Asian countries. And Shakespeare himself is really a universal and a universal character himself. So he is very popular as you say, because he is everything. That I think very dynamic. Like he has written about politics, about religion, about belief, about let's say necromancy, about modernization, about plans, and he has coined so many words and verbs and phrases.
Yeah.
He's a unique figure.
Yeah, I certainly don't think you're not doing students any favors keeping them ignorant of Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Michael, I would like to add one last question from you. That, what do you think that Shakespeare Institute in the coming 5 years or 10 years, or what sort of other programs, and you have seen that how it is expanding and people from far and wide, they are coming over here. So any special programs, any such kind of a thing, just like we are sitting together because of the linkage that we had. Collaborations and linkages are so important.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we're trying to expand them. We are making more contact with applied theatre groups who are doing Shakespeare in different contexts outside the conventional theatre, in prisons, in hospitals, working with neurodiverse audiences, working with excluded audiences, both here and around the world. We're running a festival in May online called the Shakespeare Equality Festival. We'll be talking to you about it, among others, dealing with the ways Shakespeare is being used in different debates worldwide. We are expanding our collaborations, or trying to, in other parts of Asia. We have a big collaboration with I'm co-director of something called the Chinese Shakespeare Center, which is based in Nanjing. We're already teaching a course about Shakespeare and Asian performance with the National University of Singapore, which is attracting students from around Southeast Asia to study Southeast Asian performance. So I hope we will go on attracting more and more international students, and that we will in turn, partly because online teaching is now such a ready medium to us, that we will do more collaborative courses set up in other countries, like the one in Singapore, to look at the relations between sort of orthodox Western-centered Shakespearean scholarship and local forms of performance. So I think that's such an exciting field.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and this was such an enlightening conversation. And I have gotten to know that how it is working. Shakespeare is popular in Nepal and Bangladesh and all over the world. Thank you so much.